Do you remember last year when Animal Crossing got tons of updates, new holidays, new items, new ways to play the game, new collectibles, new DIYs? Yeah, it feels like that was forever ago, wasn't it? Hey everybody, I'm Jammer, and welcome back to the Animal Crossing New Horizons video. You know what, today we're going to talk about a topic that I've seen a lot of people mentioning in the Animal Crossing community, just kind of talking more about year 2 of Animal Crossing New Horizons, because from what it seems like, a lot of people are pretty disappointed. They feel like Nintendo kind of just dropped the ball. In exception to the couple of very small updates we've gotten this year, there really hasn't been much for Animal Crossing fans. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the future of Animal Crossing New Horizons, what Nintendo could do to make things better, and when we may expect any sort of new update coming to the game. But before we get started, if you are new here, perhaps consider subscribing, because if you do, you'll be cool. That's just how it works. In addition to that, of course, you can expect tons more on Animal Crossing New Horizons. Come on, you've probably watched a couple of these videos already. Why not subscribe? It's free. You can change your mind later, but you won't want to, because like I said, if you subscribe, you're cool. If you unsubscribe, then you're cringe. So I mean, I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening to that. With all that said, let's get started. Okay, so a lot of people seem to be very antsy for the next update coming to Animal Crossing New Horizons. The anniversary of the game came and passed. People going into it, the anticipation of, oh my gosh, it's gonna be the biggest anniversary update ever. And then nothing came. And then they're theorizing, oh, we're at 1.9. They gotta turn over to 2.0. It's gonna be a big, huge update. And then 1.10 came out. I don't know, it's kind of just been like a little bit of back and forth, fans getting their expectations up way higher than they should be, and Nintendo, I guess, really not delivering on the ridiculously high expectations that fans are putting them up to be. But let's take a couple of steps back. Let's look at Animal Crossing New Horizons as a whole and really take a deep dive at did they really drop the ball with New Horizons? I think the first thing to talk about is, of course, the success of the game. When they announced New Horizons, of course, there was a lot of excitement for it, going into it and everything, but I don't think Nintendo ever could have anticipated to get as much success and hype as it ended up getting. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Animal Crossing series has typically been tracking and selling a lot better throughout the series, right? Specifically New Leaf, selling a ton back on the 3DS. So Nintendo definitely had some sort of mindset of like, okay, New Horizons is gonna do really well. From what I could find, New Leaf sold roughly 12.5 million copies over the lifetime of that game being out, which is a ton. However, if you look at New Horizons sales, it's well over double that at 31 million copies. That's insane. Okay, so you gotta kind of break down the audience of who is that 30 million? Who is in that 31 million people who bought this game? Because there's a lot of different people and demographics within that giant margin. There's on one hand the people like you watching this video right now, plays the game addictively, obsessed with Animal Crossing, loves it so much, super into the Animal Crossing community, and still playing nearly every single day. While on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who played only at launch. Maybe they played only the first month that this game came out, played 20, maybe 30 hours, got through Project KK, and said, hey, I had my experience with this game, I'm ready to move on. It's important to say right off the bat that no matter which kind of fan you are, whether casual or extremely hardcore, it doesn't matter. We all still love and enjoy the same game, and that's okay if you play it differently, right? So with that in mind, you gotta break down how much of this 30 million users, how much of this player base was on the lower end of the scale versus the hardcore side of the scale. And the truth of the matter is, it's just kind of how demographics work when it comes to games. The more hardcore fans, the people are still playing every single day, the people are still actively seeking out new content, they are sadly the smaller margin of the audience. As far as Nintendo is concerned, the majority of the audience, the more casual fans, got their experience throughout last year. They got the new updates, they got the new holidays, they experienced it all brand new, and they're probably moving on. With the lately smaller updates that have been coming out, those more casual fans don't really have much of a reason to come back. Those updates are, of course, there for the hardcore fans that are still playing and at least giving those fans something to play with. But again, like I said, the people who have already gotten their experience with the game, there's been yet to be a reason to come back to the game. So that's one thing to think about when it comes to Nintendo bringing a new update to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Because sure, this game sold gangbusters, but the truth of the matter is they can't retain an active player base of 30 million going forward for the next couple of years or even throughout the next year. People have gotten their experience, people have dropped off, so it kind of just doesn't make nearly as much sense for Nintendo to really push an Animal Crossing agenda and push more updates out. Or excuse me, push big updates out. There's been a lot of complaints about New Horizons having no content. Oh my gosh, New Leaf has so much more content. It really doesn't. It has more shops, I guess. When Nintendo delayed Animal Crossing New Horizons back the summer before it came out, When they were developing, they had to make a decision, right? They're like, do we take the time to really develop and work on this island designer stuff? You know, placing furniture outside, all the new DIYs and recipes, like all the new features in New Horizons? Or do we just make it more simple, axe all that stuff, and then throw in just the old content from the older games? And I think to the game's success, I think they made a great choice, delaying the game and introducing all these new mechanics, because for me personally, those are some of my favorite things about Animal Crossing New Horizons. And over the course of the year after the game released, they introduced a lot of the returning holidays from previous games. For Animal Crossing veterans, like myself, and probably many of you, that was all pretty standard content. It's stuff we've seen before. I mean, there was definitely new interactions and new furniture and stuff, but at the end of the day, like, I've played Bunny Day before. I've played Halloween Animal Crossing before. I've played it a ton of times over the years playing the Animal Crossing series. But we gotta remember, like I said up top, of that 30 million player base, a lot of those are new fans to the series who have never played an Animal Crossing game before. So to them, every single holiday, every single update has brought in brand new exclusive content for them because they've never played anything else before. And that's great. That's really great. They did a great job consistently updating the game throughout last year, bringing new holidays, bringing new furniture and items, and yeah, the updates kind of got smaller as time progressed, but that's just kind of how game development works. Less people are going to be working on a game once it's post-launch, so then those developers can work on other stuff, new games, new projects. Think about it like this. I don't write off some big update eventually coming to New Horizons. Will we see something at E3 this year where they announce some new update coming to New Horizons? I think that's very likely. Will it be very big or small, somewhere in between? Who's to say? But since all the updates coming to New Horizons are all free updates, and they've already gotten an insane amount of sales for the game already, there is no brand new update that's gonna like increase sales in the game any more than it's already been, if that makes sense. Like the game, they could stop updating the game today and never update New Horizons ever again, and it's still been considered a massive, massive financial success, right? So they don't really need to put more new into the game to get more value out of it, if you think about it like that. But of course, they don't want to upset fans, and they want to continue to support it and give those players content and stuff like that. So they're still going to update it and give more smaller things here and there. Maybe there'll be another big update later down the road. We'll see, of course. But if you think about it from like a business standpoint, rather than like keeping those developers, keeping those people working on a game that's already launched, what's likely happening right now is they're probably shifting development, using those people to work on different games. Perhaps especially since the Animal Crossing brand is so wildly successful and now it's a household name, wouldn't it make a lot of sense if they were going to be working on another new Animal Crossing game that could come out in like another year or two? Not saying like a new mainline title, like New Horizons will stay as like the mainline title on Switch, but they could continue to use the Animal Crossing IP to maybe make other Animal Crossing games. I know fans maybe have a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth from the previous two spin-offs, being Happy Home Designer and especially Amiibo Festival. Those were in varying qualities and weren't the best, but the point being is there's still a way they could experiment. There's still maybe a way they could make a new kind of game within the Animal Crossing universe, using those iconic characters, using your villagers and all the unique assets, clothing, and furniture that's already built for New Horizons. To me, it makes sense in that way. They've sold 31 million copies of New Horizons, and of those 31 million people, if a new Animal Crossing game came out in like the next 2 years, even if it's not a mainline title, I think a lot of those people are going to be very inclined to also buy that. I mean, I know you watching this video would. I know I would. If Nintendo came out with another new Animal Crossing game, a spin-off game in the next couple years, of course I'm buying that. Day absolutely one. And I think there's also a lot of people that would do the same. So it makes a lot of sense to start having those developers, those people who worked on New Horizons, start shifting away from continuing support to New Horizons and start working on another new game to, you know, continue to get more revenue that way and sell more copies of Animal Crossing. Considering the team that worked on New Horizons, they have a lot in common with the people who worked on Splatoon 2. And since we've already been announced that the Splatoon 3 is being worked on, developed, and will likely be releasing sometime next year, what's likely happening at this point in time is a lot of those developers are transferring focus to start working on Splatoon 3, while perhaps a smaller strike team might be working on the next Animal Crossing updates, you know, keeping the seasonal items throughout the next year, adding a couple of new things throughout holidays and stuff, and sure, maybe there'll be a big update eventually or something. But what's likely happening is a lot of those developers are probably starting shifting focus to work on Splatoon 3. Or, like I said previously, what I really hope is some of those developers are also working on some new Animal Crossing spinoff, something using the Animal Crossing IP, some new Animal Crossing game that's perhaps not some mainline title, but something new, something unique, a brand new experience. And I think that's a good thing. So when people complain about saying, oh, Nintendo dropped the ball with New Horizons, oh, how could they have totally dropped the ball when it came to a game that sold 31 million copies? And it's like, they kind of didn't. They sold 31 million copies of New Horizons. They did update it throughout the last year, bringing new content for all those new fans who have never played an Animal Crossing game before. I personally think they did a great job balancing the brand new content, bringing all the brand new features at the beginning of the game and at launch, and then continue to dish out and bring later updates of stuff we've seen before to let new fans experience those previous holidays. Do I still want brand new content to come to New Horizons, like new features, new shops, some sort of mini game, Tortimer Island, whatever? Of course. I'm just like you guys. Of course I want to see some new stuff like that. But what's likely happening is they're probably moving on from that, and that's okay too. Matter of fact, that's maybe even more exciting, because then that only means we might be getting a new Animal Crossing game soon. We'll get more work on Splatoon 3, so theoretically that will come out sooner rather than later in next year. To me, that's all good news. But what do you think? Do you think Nintendo handled New Horizons right? Do you think they did a good job balancing like the new and old content? Are you disappointed with the fact that there hasn't really been much updates this year? Or even in general, how do you feel about the content that is in New Horizons? Do you feel like it's justified for the $60 price point? Did you get your value out of this game? I'd love to start that conversation and hear what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big awesome like. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on Animal Crossing New Horizons. As a reminder, we do stream every weekend right here on YouTube Live at 10 a.m. Eastern. That's Saturdays and Sundays. Be sure to follow me over my socials as well as join our community Discord. The link to that is in the description below. It's a great place to find friends to play Nintendo Switch games with, Animal Crossing, Splatoon, all that fun stuff. So I highly encourage you to check that out. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you again so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!